Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so I've got a few thoughts I want to share with you today. There's a song. It's been on YouTube for 11 years, at least on this one channel, and it's a jazz musician who's recently, I don't know if he's recently passed away, but he's passed away. And it's a really, really upbeat song. And when you listen to how fast he's kind of talking, almost like a rapper, but he's not a rapper, at least I don't think he is. It's incredible when you find out that he was a stutterer, so he had a really, I guess, hard time talking. So let me read a little bit of the comments people made about this guy. So it said, his name or nickname or jazz musician name, I'm not really sure, but it's called Scatman. Wrote this song about his struggles in life with a stutter. The lyrics are quite inspirational, really. It says another one, what a guy. All of his songs are filled with deep, positive messages combined with goofy lyrics. It gives you the feeling that everything will be okay and you can make it if you believe. He says everybody stutters one way or the other, so check out my message to you as a matter of fact, etc., etc. So the song, it's called Scatman, Ski Bop 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 Bop. It's a really funny, uplifting. It loosens you up because it's so bouncy. Now I want to talk about that for a moment. And then I'll talk about a young kid, I think at the time he was probably about 14 years old or 13, that I helped with stuttering. So we have basically we have two sets of nerves that go into our body, into our system. We have the left brain set of nerves and the right brain set of nerves. So when you're in the left brain, you are in the tip of the V, so you're stuck, okay? It's very narrow, it's like looking under a microscope, and everything seems to get amplified and blown out of proportion. Where do you think people have panic attacks? So the tip of the V is when you're very, very logical. You're at the extreme far left side of your brain. When you're at the right side of the brain, the further you go, the wider it gets and the more comfort. It's like energy is allowed to kind of expand out and have room and can move around. It becomes more comfortable. So the right brain is the peripheral system. It's when your awareness and your energy expands out. So like I said in a couple videos back, concentrated energy is basically where evil exists, okay? Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be evil, but that's where evil comes from. So when you allow the energy to expand out and molecules suddenly have room to move around freely and to breathe, you become free, you become happy, you become loose. So the reason why I keep showing this, my buddy, he's 58 years old, going down this hill on like a big wheel made for an adult, is because nothing loosens you up more than kind of living life, going fast, letting the wind blow through your hair. We laughed so hard. I loosened up so much because of this. When we got out of the car, I just started laughing and laughing. And laughter literally loosens up your lungs. So now the, what do they call it inside your lungs where the oxygen goes through? I'm going to call it the capillaries, and forgive me if that's not what they're called. I'm drawing a blank right now. So when you're uptight, those capillaries tighten up. Your blood vessels tighten up, everything tightens up, and so the system begins to drag, it becomes slow, and you can't get as much oxygen to your muscles or to your brain. And it's kind of like this causes a panic attack, which causes more of a panic attack, because the more you panic, the more you get tight, the more you can't breathe, the more you can't get oxygen to your brain. And then what happens is, there's an artery in the lower reptilian brain when it has a sensor on it, just like a car. Cars have an oxygen sensor to see how much oxygen is mixing with the gasoline. So the computer will adjust how much oxygen is going in depending on what's happening. So this artery does a very similar thing. If you don't have enough oxygen, because oxygen is fuel, the number one fuel to your muscles and your brain, is that artery narrows and keeps more of the blood down inside your muscles for fight and flight. The problem is it puts you in your panic brain, your fight or flight, kill or be killed, reptilian the lower brain that's on the lower brain stem. The problem with that is there's no logical thinking and there's no abstract right brain thinking where you can see things and put the pieces together. So now suddenly you're at a deficit. Now you're in survival mode. And that's where narcissists love to put us, is they love to constantly panic us and scare us and terrify us. So, okay, I'll give you an example. I had a friend years ago. He passed away about 5 years ago, I think. Every time we'd get in his car, he'd kind of hit the brake and herky-jerky. And I'm like, dude, why do you do that? Well, in the beginning, I just thought, man, this is kind of a really awkward dude. But then I realized, like, oh, he's doing this shit on purpose. Another thing he would do on the highway. Now, he turned out to be 100% a narcissist for sure. As I learned about narcissists, like, oh, he pulled all of these stunts. So another thing, to give you an example, is we would go down the highway 101 that goes through Marin to the Golden Gate Bridge, and every time we'd go to a club or to a club in the city, he would always go in the third lane. I'm like, Jeff, right up ahead of us, about a mile and a half, is that big pothole. Make sure you change lanes so you don't hit it again, because he was destroying his car. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. I'm like, Jeff, get out, change lanes. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, man, whatever, man. He goes, oh, I will. And bam, he hits it again. I'm like, dude, like, why are you doing that? And as all narcissist, he would play dumb and stupid once again. Now, this was like the 25th time we've hit this damn thing. And he would literally play dumb. Oh, I forgot. I literally just told you like 5 times in a row. Like, how could you? Oh. And they literally play dumb. They play, oh, I'm scared, or I'm innocent. I'm sorry. And no, they're doing it on purpose to constantly keep you in a state of panic or fear. What does that do? It lowers that artery. And that puts you in more panic and fear. Now you can't think. Now you don't have awareness. Now you're on the defensive. This is why learning how to do deep breathing techniques that fully oxygenate your system, because once the sensor on the artery senses like, oh, okay, there's plenty of oxygen, it opens back up, and now you've got plenty of fuel to feed your muscles and your brain, and now you open up to your larger right hemisphere, okay, and now you begin to relax. See, the right brain's the peripheral brain. It's the peripheral nervous system, literally your nerves, and this relaxes your body, it relaxes your heart, it relaxes your brain. So in the internal awareness course, the emotional grounding course, not only do I teach you a series of breathing techniques, I teach you how to ground yourself emotionally and energetically. So, okay. I had a conversation with a guy named Kevin from Florida last night. And he asked me, he goes, well, so like you never panic? You never have any fear? I'm like, oh no, I have panic. I have fear, not as much as I used to. And I said, but that's not, you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. You're thinking it's either or, like, oh, you're this God and you never have any problems in life. Like that is absolutely not true. So right now I am going to court, taking someone to court, getting a restraining order. And yeah, you're damn right. It can cause panic and like, this happens, that happens. Whoa, kind of throws you off balance. And that's probably the word it is. It's like, yeah, there was a moment there where it threw me off balance, but here's the difference. I have a set of tools, a series of tools, breathing techniques, internal awareness techniques, grounding techniques, etc., where, okay, I'm in a panic right now, drop your awareness, do this, do that. And it's not an automatic button. It could take a half an hour. Like if I really do it, I can definitely get out of that state in half an hour. Sometimes it's kind of like once you get stuck there, you kind of don't want to do the techniques because you're in a state of fear. But you kind of breathe and come back 10 minutes later, you do some more breathing, and then you do these different techniques, the grounding techniques, the internal awareness and expanding techniques. And after a while, you start to come down, and then you do a little more, and then boom, you pop wide open. You're like, oh, okay, I can relax now. Whereas before, I would be in a panic state. It could be for days, even weeks. So that's the difference. It's not like, oh, I'd never have any fear anymore, any anxiety. No, that's never something I've ever said. It's like now I have tools to be able to handle it and deal with it a lot better. So here's what's happening. When someone goes into a panic attack or a state of fear, and that's all it is. Again, you're going up into the tip of the V. So when you're up there, this is where you have anger, fear, frustration, stress, anxiety, and panic attacks. So all we have to do is flip you around and get you into the open space. And now you're free. So once I realize someone's in a panic state, all I have to do is flip them around to see the tip of the V is when you're in your logical linear nerves, like the actual nerves that go into your body. So this is like looking under the microscope. You look at this tiny little speck of dirt, but it makes it look like it's huge when it's actually this little tiny, oh my God, all my carpet is dirty. And when you pull yourself away, like I may sometimes physically grab someone's shoulders and pull them back and then lift their head up, and all of a sudden they're seeing the bigger picture and they're like, wow, I was stressed over that little tiny dot on my carpet. It was literally nothing. So now, do you remember when Jesus said, get behind thee, Satan? And he said it to, I always forget. I want to say to Paul. I'll look it up. Hold on. All right, I got it right here. I Googled it. So it's when Jesus said, get behind thee, Satan. And it is Mark 8:33 and Matthew 16:23. It says, in the story, Jesus tells his disciple that he will go to Jerusalem and suffer, including being killed and raised to life on the third day. Peter rebukes Jesus, saying, never, Lord, this shall never happen to you. And then Jesus responds with a quote, and it says, get behind thee, Satan. So I had heard that, I'd read that, I'd even seen it in the movies and stuff about Jesus and Christ and all that, and it kind of went over my head. So many years later, in my early 20s, I'm taking these NLP trainings, I'm learning about this V and the tip of the V and the open space and how people come out of anxiety and fears by getting them to expand wide open, to ground themselves, etc., to do breathing techniques. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then I'd done it with my clients, and man, you see this transformation. Like, wow, they just like shifted like out of this stuck state they've been in for freaking years and years or decades. And you literally see their faces relax, the muscles in their body relax, their face becomes softer, their breathing becomes deeper. And you just see this comfort in it. It is just like night and day difference. So I'm reading my Bible again, and I came across that verse, get behind thee, Satan. I was like, wait a minute. See, when you're at the tip of the V, that's when you're angry. That's where anger and aggressiveness. And this is how I know when someone's in their lower reptilian brain, depending on how narrow the pupils are, how close they are, how tight their face is, and their voice begins to tighten up. That's when people become very angry and become very aggressive. I'm like, oh, that's what he's saying. Get behind thee, Satan. Because the reptilian brain is, when you're in that narrow focus, it's either or mentality. It's completely, there's no options and possibility, which means if there's a piece of food in front of me and you're on the other side, well, I've got to kill you in order to survive. Which is the instinctual lower brain. It is the brain. If someone's going to do something wrong, that's where they're going to do it from. That's the animalistic killer, be killed, survive brain. This is why they tell you, you got to learn to relax and, breathe and all this. Like, in boxing, since I was a little kid, all my coaches, like, Mike, loosen up. They'd have me bounce around, do jumping jacks and shadow box and bounce. The key word is bounce around, move around, shake my arms out, shake my legs out before we went in the ring. And even when you go to the ring, you'll see boxers shake their legs and keep shaking their arms out, their hands, shaking them out and moving their head. Because here's what it does. It loosens you up. It opens you up to the right brain's emotional nervous system. From here, you can see the bigger picture. My first couple boxing matches, I was in a full-on panic attack, and I would get punched in the nose, and I didn't even see the punch because I was like so narrow vision, like I'm looking down a scope. If he threw a right hand off from the side even a little tiny bit, I couldn't see it because I was so focused on his eyes or his nose. After my first fight, I actually only lost by 1 point to last year's state champion, so I did really, really good. And the fact that I was fighting the state champion was kind of unfair. But I cried because it wasn't necessarily that I got hurt, because I really didn't. I got punched in the nose. It kind of stung a little bit in the first round, but it was my eyes watered. But that was it. We're little kids, and so I didn't get hurt. It was that I was overwhelmed. I was in that tiny view, and everything seemed overwhelming. But when you open up to the bigger picture, all of a sudden, being in a crowd of 1,000 people or whatever, it's no big deal. You're just relaxed. See, a lot of people are like, man, I just don't know how you can speak in front of a group of people. I'm like, it's really not that hard once you learn how to open up. And yeah, it's something you have to practice and develop. And see, here's the thing. The more you practice, the more you develop it. It becomes secondhand nature. It just becomes like, oh, okay, I'm in here. Now I got to get over there. I got to open up and do this, this, and that. And boom, you're there. See, a lot of people look at me like, man, you're so special. I'm not special. I am telling you, I am nothing but average. How to explain this? Okay, I'm going to throw this in here and I'll go back to what I was talking about a second ago. There was a guy at the gym who was 6 foot 4'1.5". Okay, so almost 6'1". And he was like, "Man, you're so lucky." I'm like, "What do you mean? How am I lucky?" He's like, "Well, you're so big." I'm like, "I'm so big." Now this guy was bigger than me in every way, muscle-wise, height, weight. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, I mean, you're so big and it gives you an advantage." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not even 5'9". I'm like an eighth of an inch under 5'9". He goes, "No, you're not. You're like 6'2.5", 6'3". I'm like, "No, I'm not." Now the funny thing is the guy is looking down at me. He's not even 6'1". So I said, "Look at me." I go, "You're looking down at me." He goes, "Well, you're slouching, aren't you?" I'm like, "No, I'm not slouching." So he goes, "All right, let's stand back to back." So we were at the gym. There's big mirrors all around. And he turns his head and he goes, "Oh my God, you're almost 3 inches shorter than me." I'm like, "Yeah, I am 3 inches." I go, "I'm 3.5 inches shorter than you." A lot of this stuff is in your mind, and it's like you guys think it's some kind of like magical, like, okay. One of the things I loved about NLP was it really does seem like magic. You're like, holy shit, you get rid of this phobia or this lifelong craving. Like I used to eat candy like crazy. I did one session and got rid of my candy craving doing this one simple swish technique. And at first I go, well, I don't feel any different. But it wasn't until after a month my sister kept offering candy. She goes, "Why don't you eat candy?" She goes, "Michael, you eat candy all the time." And I was like, huh. I never noticed that. So you do this pattern where you swish away the candy and then you swish up healthy vegetables and fruit, and it triggers that. It rewires it in your nervous system. Now, in the beginning of NLP, I just thought, "Oh, this isn't real, until it worked on me, and I was like, wow, that literally took me like 15 minutes to do, maybe 20 minutes, and like completely to this day, I don't eat sugar candy anymore. It's like I have to make myself do it now. And a lot of you guys, "Oh, you're so confident. No, it's just what I learned to do. It's how the things I learned to rewire in my system." And I would go to NLP trainers or whoever, and boom, they would do this and say, "Hey, I've got this phobia, I've got this problem." Boom, we work on that, and that's all it is. And yes, by the way, if you haven't noticed, I am an NLP trainer, master hypnotherapist, and I do Ericksonian hypnotherapy, because it's really the most effective form of therapy you can do to help people shift and change. So one of the things is people get stuck in the linear system. It's like, okay, so let's say 360 degrees around or whatever it is. You've had all these neurological connections to your brain, to this side, the back side, underneath, top, bottom, frontal lobes, into your body, gathering memories, etc. In other words, you're open at the wide end. You're wide open, and now you have free access to all your information, your thoughts, your memories, your strategies, techniques, everything. And that things begin to free flow, and you relax from the state because it's easier to access information and abilities within your nervous system. Because you have all these neurological connections everywhere, and you can free flow and connect to any information or whatever that you need. Now, when you go into panic mode, you get shifted into your reptilian brain, which only functions through the linear system, which means instead of having all these neurological connections going everywhere, now you're down to one set of nerves or even one nerve, and you can access just 1% of what you normally could access, and you're very limited, and that's what causes you to go into a panic. The number one technique we teach people is how to shake their bodies out, how to loosen up, how to relax, how to breathe deep, because it expands and opens you back up. And thus, I give you the Scatman. So the whole point of that is they're breathing, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're dancing, they're moving, they're shaking, they're bouncing their head around. Same thing we do in boxing if you want to do really good. And that's why they tell you, relax, stay loose, breathe. And all of these things allow you to stay wide open, and you have more access to your power, to your abilities, to your intelligence. It even helps you with your physical strength. It helps you with your speed. That's why, the coach like, "Mike, loosen up. Just snap your jab," meaning don't muscle it. Just relax, let it snap, because a lot more power comes when you're loose. Pop, 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 and it's a lot faster. So you guys look at other people and think, "Oh, they're just born that way." No, they're not. They learn things from other people, regardless of whether it was Tony Robbins or me or whoever. And they function better in life. It doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean they never have bad days. It just means like, okay, I'm having a bad day. Something bad happened. Here's a technique that'll help me deal with it better. So if Kevin last night said like, well, are you relaxed more overall? Absolutely. My overall life in general, yeah, I'm much more relaxed than I used to be. Again, that doesn't mean I'm saying I'm always relaxed. I never have. No, I'm not going 100%. I'm just saying in percentage-wise comparison, yeah, you deal with life a lot better. Do you still have challenges? Of course. One of the problems is, as a Western society, we only believe in Western society things, and everything else is not real, or we don't believe in it. And you're like, well, you've been in therapy for like 15 years for this phobia. Has it worked? Oh, it's helping. And then you grab a frog, and they jump up. And this literally happened. I had a client like this, literally freaked out, jumped up on the table, broke out into an instant sweat. And I'm like, yeah, all the Medicaid, because they were seeing different types of, like a psychologist, psychiatrist, and they bounced around from a couple over the years. And I'm like, yeah, it's not working. But they sure love it when you come back every week and give them that paycheck. So let's be very nice. They just don't know what they're doing. Because sorry, there's loud noise. So if you know what you're doing, a real life phobia can be cured in one session. 3 sessions at most. And that's only if the person doesn't trust you enough or whatever. I've never had to do more than 1 session for a real life, lifelong phobia. And I remember when they told this to us in the trainings, I thought, oh, that's impossible. This was another thing that this is kind of like fairy tale stuff. Until I did it with someone, it's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Her husband came to my door about 5 days later, maybe it was a week later, and he goes, are you Mike Kollin? And I'm thinking, yeah, like who? Because the guy was in his Air Force military uniform. I thought the military was calling me back into the Army. Because on your contract, you have like a 10-year, I forget what the technical term is, but they can call you back at any time 10 years after you get out. I remember thinking, I'm not going back in the military. So he sticks his hand up to shake it. He goes, I got to shake your hand. And I'm like, okay. And I shook his hand like, well, what do you mean? He goes, I'm, so-and-so's husband, blah, blah, blah. You have no idea the hell I've been through. I've had to pick her up and carry her from kids' picnic parties to birthday parties. He goes, thank you so much, and blah, blah. He goes, I don't know how you did it, but he was really grateful. So it's kind of like this. Psychologists, now I would like to believe in the last 10, 15 years, so I know some of them have started taking NLP trainings. I know this for a fact, because during some of the trainings I went to, there was a couple there. So here's all I'm saying. It's like this. Let's say you have a car. Well, they see a car and blah, blah, blah. And let's say they don't understand that there's this thing called an engine, that there's this thing called a hood. All you got to do is pop the hood, lift it up, and that's where you can find the problems, and that's where you can fix the problems. Well, they don't even know about that. And they're like, well, what's an engine? What's an engine bay? What are you talking about? What's a spark plug? All right, I'm going to give you a really good example. Sometimes when you think you have like this major problem, it's actually an easy fix, like a really easy fix. I'm going to give you a real life metaphor, a true story, though, example that happened to me. So my car was like, like, whoa, what the fuck's wrong with my car? Like something was not right with my car. And I was like, oh my God, it just seemed like the engine was just gone. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't buy a new engine or, get it fixed. I pull it in. The mechanic's kind of going, what's going on with your car? I'm like, dude, I don't know. And he's all right. Well, leave it here. Go, give us a couple hours. We'll take a look at it and we'll give you a call, let you know. So I went back down there later in the day and they're like, okay, well, we figured out what's going on with your car. I'm thinking, oh God, it's going to be so expensive. So he goes, did you clean your engine? I'm like, yeah, I kind of cleaned it and sprayed it down a little bit. He goes, did you kind of move things around? I'm like, no, I just wiped it down to get the water off. And he goes, yeah, see this right here? This is called the spark plug wire. I'm like, yeah. He pops it down. He goes, start your engine. Boom! Started right up. And it ran smoothly and perfectly. I'm like, what did you do? And I'm still thinking it's probably not as expensive as a rebuilt engine because that takes, days to do. And he goes, dude, this wire is loose. He goes, you knocked it loose and therefore it didn't have the connection. It was kind of functioning improperly off of this, all the spark plugs except for this one. And that's why it was kind of running rough. And I go, how much? And he goes, don't worry about it. He goes, literally, he goes, that's the first thing we checked, and we just popped it right on, started it. He goes, there's no charge today. And that's what NLP does. One of the examples they said is NLP is kind of like a mechanic. You either know what you're doing or you don't. And they said, would you take your car to a mechanic? And he said, well, I don't know if I can fix it, but I'm going to charge you $150 an hour either way. You'd be like, hell no. And that's what NLP trainers and Erickson and hypnotherapists like, yeah, we know that how to lift the hood. We know that there's an engine. We know how to fix things and move things and replace things and rewire things. So I'm going to give you another example. So you guys have all heard of Helen Keller. I believe it was Helen Keller. There's two similar stories, and I think this is the one it was. Essentially, this person, this might be a different person though, because I heard these stories during the same time in class. It was like 1 week and then the other. So whether it was her or not, it was this person who was kind of mute and couldn't, move very well. Her body was stiff, and so what happened was her caretaker somehow knew to brush her entire body every day for about 15-20 minutes with a brush. And it would make the patient, or the, whatever you call it, like feel comfortable and relaxed instead of panicking and all that stuff. And it just relax. And then she started doing her arms and her legs and her back, not just her hair. And because what it was doing is it stimulates the nerve endings, which allows your brain to expand wide open into that open V where Jesus says, get behind thee, Satan. So whoever this person was, again, it may have been Helen Keller, it may not have been, is they started to function better and better and better, and could actually start to communicate. And I think they started to play the piano. I think they wrote a book, and it was a really kind of an incredible story. Like, well, how did you do this? And she goes, I just kept brushing her with the brush. It's equivalent to when boxers bounce and shake their arms, shake their head, shake their legs. And like that song Scatman, where everyone's bouncing around, it's the Scatman, bebop, bop, bop, bidoo, bop, bop, bop. Even the music, the noise, bop, bop, it shakes you out of being in a stuck state. It's like shaking your hair out and everything falls down. It allows you to open up to access more of your neurology, more of your nervous system, more of your brain, more of the memory. See, your muscles your memories are stored in your muscles. So when your muscles are tight, you don't have access to them. It's like the blood can't flow through, the nerves can't quite connect because you're in the wrong nervous system. You got to shift over to the other nervous system to open up to access the information to receive. Remember, the right brain is the female brain. It's the receiving brain. The left brain is the push brain. You want to open up to receive the information. So, okay, for me, when I get in the shower, I get some of the greatest ideas because the shower head has all these different streams of water hitting your head, hitting this part, your back, your face, your arms, your legs, and it stimulates you. It literally stimulates the nerve endings, which go up into the brain and starts to open the brain up. And all of a sudden, all these ideas just flow to me. In fact, a lot of the YouTube videos I made, I'm in the shower, and all of a sudden I get this idea, and I've learned to jump out, dry off, get dressed, and do the video now, or at least make some notes, because otherwise, a lot of times I'll forget it. So anything that stimulates your nervous system, using a brush. Here's another one. Deep tissue massage. Even just massage in general. Brushing your hair over and over will do the same thing. It's a very relaxing thing. It opens you up and stimulates your nerve endings to access more. So when you go to a Tony Robbins seminar, I'm going to tell you something that is really simple, that's unbelievable, that he does every seminar over, and that you do it every 30 to 45 minutes. He does not speak for more than 45 minutes without having you guys do this. He'll say, all right, stand up in a peak state. Take a deep breath. Take another. Breathe out powerfully. You go, shake your arms, shake your legs, and jump up and down. They crank the music, and you jump up and down. He goes, breathe deep, and then he says, clap your hands and say yes, 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 over and over and over. And they got the music blowing. He goes, breathe deep. So you're breathing deep 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. You're jumping around, and they go, all right, sit down in a peak state. So this is constantly getting you to open up to your right brain's nervous system, the receiving system. That's all he's doing. He's getting you to shake out your nerves. Like literally shake out your arms and your legs, because it shakes out the nerves, your physical nerves in your arms, in your legs, in your chest, in your body, and it expands you open. Now you have more access. Stretch your face, open your mouth wide open, massage your forehead, massage your face, pull your ears, pinch and squeeze or massage your ears. And then breathe in deep and say, yes, 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 over and over. And it puts you in a yes state. When you walk out of those seminars that you've done for 2.5 days to 5 days or whatever, like you can do anything. And I remember, like, what is it about? I noticed, like, for about a month and a half, I was, boom, I'm writing a book. I'm doing this. I'm going to college. I'm doing my homework. I'm doing this. I'm going to work. I'm just on it. And then after about a month or two later, it kind of wears off. And I'm like, well, like, what is this? He just gets you into such a positive, literally neurological nervous system state that it lasts for a certain period of time. And all you have to do is at home, before you go to work, jump up and down, play some music, say yes, 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 clap your hands, rub your body, massage your body, etc., etc. Get a massage. In psychology class, it's deep tissue massage. I want to say it's Rogerian, but whatever. It was the technique, and they began to realize when you do deep tissue massage, especially on the feet and the hands, you will shift your conversation from one thing to another because it's hitting a nerve that's bringing up a memory. Your memories are stored in your body. And so what it does, my ex-girlfriend used to massage my feet a lot, right? When I had a lot of anxiety, and she would massage my feet. So I would be talking about one subject, and then boom, I'd go to when I was 5 years old, blah, 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 blah. And literally sometimes before finishing it, because she'd moved the massage to another part of my foot, I would suddenly change the subject. And I didn't notice it at first, but she would giggle and giggle and giggle. So finally one day I was like, why do you always giggle? Like, I don't understand. And she starts laughing. She goes, Michael, you will change the subject from eating an orange when you were a child to in first grade, the first time you had pizza at the 15-minute break and blah, blah, blah. She goes, Michael, you're just like all over the place. It's funny. Now, from your experience, or from my experience, we'll say in this case, I'm like, no, I wasn't. Because when I was in a conversation, I was in that moment, and that's all I remembered. And then when I went to another one, it was almost like the other conversation didn't happen. Because now I'm deeply in this conversation with no connection to that one. And she's like, Michael, she goes, you haven't noticed that you will just radically shift to a completely different time in your life, to a totally different subject. I'm like, no. And so I started paying attention. It's like, wow, that was interesting. You guys want therapy? Get deep tissue massage. It brings up old memories that have been stored, that have never been released. You bring them up, you look at them from an adult perspective, and also you're like, oh, well, it was just a mistake when I was a little kid. I didn't realize I took on that belief. And also, like, different things, your rules that you follow, like, that's a stupid rule. Well, when Timmy was 7, he told me, well, that's the way it is, and I just blindly accepted it, and didn't realize I took that rule on. There's a lot of things that you get stuck by, and all you got to do is shake that stuff out. Memories will come up, ideas will come up, and you start to see them from a much bigger picture, a much greater, broader perspective, and that alone can shift experiences. Do you know what it is? It's just being stuck. You're just in a stuck state. That's all it is. It's not a big deal. You can shake out of that, bounce up and down, smile, breathe deep for 10, 15, 20 minutes. You'll completely get out of any state if you force a smile, you look up, you breathe deep, you shake your body, you jump up and down, you do your jumping jacks. All of a sudden you start to feel better because you've loosened up your nervous system. So let's go back to the Scatman, or actually back to the kid who had stuttering problems. So I walked into this business. It was a training facility, and a sports facility, I should say. And one of the owners said, "Hey, yeah, do you think you can help this kid over here?" I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" He goes, "He has a really bad stuttering problem." I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. He's like, "What?" And he kind of what are you talking about? Because the kid had been in I think it was therapy for 4 years, working with a speech coach and all this stuff. And man, that kid was he could not stop stuttering. I mean, this was the worst case I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I felt sorry for this kid. So I realized logically telling him not to stutter, that wasn't going to help. And giving him more techniques, that was just going to confuse him even more. This kid needed to relax. Where do you think stuttering comes from? Meaning, on which side of this V do you think stuttering exists and is created? Yep, it's at the tip. It's at the far left brain. You're overthinking. It's like you're trying to think of what's the right word for every... People who stutter really bad, it's every single word they overthink. And they're trying to, like, is this the right next word? And people who kind of stutter kind of medium, well, those are the people who might think of, like, is this the right sentence to put after that sentence and then the next one before? They have kind of a little bit bigger, but they stutter, okay? So I know all I have to do is get him to open up to his right brain. All I have to do is get him to ground emotionally and to expand open. See, the right brain is the bigger picture brain. It's the amalgamation, which means it takes pieces of the puzzle and it connects them together. And it's very natural, it's very smooth, because that's the way that processor does it. The problem is some people try to do it from the left brain, from the microscopic, and that's because you see, the reason why is because you're thinking of what you're going to say before you say it, and you're overthinking it, so you kind of stop and wait and think about first, and you're trying to go fast, because the left brain wants to go fast. It's literally the equivalent of pushing on the gas pedal and pushing on the brake at the same time. And then sometimes you let off the brake, and then you slam on the brake, and you go back and forth, and that's stuttering. That's what you're doing in your brain. When you learn how to let go, everything flows. So essentially all I did with the kid was a series. I had him stretch, I had him do some deep breathing techniques. I didn't say anything about stuttering. We didn't even talk about stuttering. I just started using metaphors and stories. Okay, so there's something that I've learned that I'm trained in. It's called conversational hypnosis. It sounds like you're just talking. It sounds like you're just talking like a normal person. Well, I'm actually using a series of techniques because my first thing is like, well, what's going on with this person? Like, why is this happening? I'm trying to find out what the pattern is. I'm like, oh, okay. And once I get the pattern, then I'm like, okay, I just got to use a series of techniques to pop them out of that pattern. So it took me about 30 minutes or maybe a little bit more. We're sitting there and everyone's kind of, warming up for class and stuff. And what happened was people got really quiet and they're kind of staring. And I didn't really catch it at first. But what was happening was the kid was just talking. Like, I mean, literally just talking normal. Blah, 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 blah. There's no stuttering at all. And the owner kind of was staring at me and he's like, what? Like he was like, had this like, his mouth was dropped. His eyes were like, what's going on here? And he goes, hey, you okay? And he said, the kid's like, yeah, I'm fine. Why? And he goes, no reason. He walked away. And so after I said, hey, why don't you just go to class now? Enjoy the day. He goes, oh, okay, thank you. And he runs off to class. And the owner goes, what the hell did you do? I was like, this is what I do. Because it would have took me hours to try to explain everything. It's taken me over half an hour to explain this to you. All right, so now I want to ask you a question. What do you think singing is? Is it artistic? Is it logical? And then my next question is, what brain do you think singing comes from? Yeah, the right brain, because the right brain is the artistic brain. It's the emotional, creative, spiritual brain. It's the brain where you create music and art, etc., etc. It's the brain you're supposed to be in when you sing, when you dance, when you do artwork. So why do you think the Scatman can sing and be a famous jazz singer? Because he's opening up to his right brain. And a lot of people who have stuttering problems, when they sing perfect. They sing normal. And people are like, I don't understand, but you have such a stuttering problem. Because they're coming out of the left brain and they're opening up. And Shazam, suddenly they talk normal. My point, my purpose, loosen up, breathe deep, stretch, get massage, shake your arms out, shake your legs out, force a smile on your face, breathe deep, say yes, 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 over and over and over. You can snap out of it right now with what I just taught you on this video. If you go for a walk, do some power walking. Make yourself walk for a block or half a block and move your arms, I don't want to say forcefully, but swing them a little bit more. Move them. Breathe a little bit deep. Maybe just take about 5 deep breaths every block. You don't have to do the whole block. Just take 5 deep breaths. Walk a block. Take 5 deep breaths. Walk a block. You'll start to loosen up. Massage your face. Massage your head. You will absolutely loosen up. Get your body moving. And get the breathing going and get yourself looking up and smiling, because that accesses a different part of your brain that releases positive chemicals into your nervous system, into your brain, into your system. I had a boxing match where Okay, so the first fight, I was completely linear, looking down that little tube, and I was getting hit everywhere, and I was just throwing punches back. I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, I was just in great shape, and so then the second fight was the same. It was like a panic attack, but I don't remember what fight it was, but there's somewhere down the line, I was getting hit, and I couldn't even see where the punches were coming from, all right? And so I remember, I think it was the second round. I don't think it was the first round, but I remember because it kind of hurt because it kept hitting my nose, my forehead. And I took a big step back with my back leg, my right leg. And then I let the front leg come back a little bit, but then I leaned back about another 1.5 feet. And as I look back, and I remember it relaxed me. And I was kind of looking back like, what's going on here? Because when I was kind of like in that linear mode, I couldn't see the punches literally, physically, because I was too narrow focused. And that's why I was getting my ass kicked. But when I leaned back, all of a sudden I could see his shoulder moving, boom, like, oh, punch came on. And I was dodging him. I was like, oh, and I was catching him with my gloves. And I was like, oh, okay. And not only that, but I could see the openings. Because before I was just throwing my punches, landing it. He'd block them with his gloves. I couldn't even see the openings. Absolute transformation. My whole boxing career turned around. And also I was like, oh, I get it now. Because now I can see. Boxing blind is not good. Take a step back, literally. Even if you're in a conversation, take a half step back and just lean back about another inch or two. It'll help you in conversations too. It'll help people to relax, including you. Open up to your power. It's already there. You just have to access it. And remember, if the Scatman can do it, so can you. That's been my life theme. If I can do it, so can you. That's all I was trying to tell you. That guy's like, oh, you're so much bigger than me. No, I'm smaller than you, and I do a lot better. It's because I'm learning how. Hey, this is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. If you like this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, make a comment, and if you want, there's a PayPal link right there if you want to make a donation. Alright guys, thank you very much. See you in the next video. Bye.